Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gangana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Hello, welcome. Pay very close attention to these teachings. They are from a work of Adi Shankaracharya, Viveka Chudamani, and it is Advaita Vedanta. So these are the teachings that you find in the scriptures. They are according to the scriptures. So pay very attention to these teachings. Listen very carefully to these teachings. Then you should reflect upon them, reflecting a lot upon these teachings, and then meditate upon these teachings so that they may bear fruit in your heart. So moving on to verse 165. Then there is the prana sheet, pranamaya kosha, the 5 organs of action, together with the 5 vital forces. Make the sheet of prana. In this first sheet, this heap of skin, bone, blood, this sheet of prana lives and engages itself in all sorts of works. So this sheet of prana permeates the first sheet, which is the physical body, the body made out of food. So it permeates it all. In this second sheet also is not the Atman. It cannot be because it is the transformation of prana. The Atman is unchangeable, no transformations. It moves like the wind inside and outside of the physical body. It moves like the wind. It has this movement. So this is why people, when they start meditating, sometimes they kind of perform this movement with the body and they feel that, or sometimes they don't do the body, this movement, but they feel the movement. Other times they reproduce this movement at the level of the physical body because their consciousness moves to this pranamaya kosha and gets identified with it. And it's like this movement of flames, for example, that swings from one side of the other. And it permeates the body and goes beyond the body, so outside and inside this physical body. So it cannot be Atman, which is changeless. It does not know what is good or bad for it. It is not the knower of itself or anybody else. Therefore, it is always subject to something else. So it cannot be the Atman. The organs of feeling and the mind, these make the third or mental sheet. Manomaya kosha, this mind thinks of its separation from others and fills the other 2 sheets. So it's from here, the Manomaya kosha, which comes the awareness or perception or creation of that perception of separation. Now there's something else here, but let's wait when it comes in the verse. The mind knows everything by the 5 senses, making them the givers of oblations. Objects of senses form the butter and the desire the fuel. So this is a parallel to the oblations where something is put into the fire as a sacred offering. And the mind knows everything through the five senses. So everything which is its own creation, but let us not go there yet, it knows only that which is observed after it, not prior. So it knows only about illusion. Okay. So here it comes after. So I don't need to talk about it now. I have told you about avidya. Know that there is no other avidya than this mind. Avidya, ignorance. It is the cause of all bondage. By its death, everything is destroyed because it creates everything. But when it's manifested, everything, the phenomenal universe, is there. So when you go into susupti, dreamless state, you still exist, but there's nothing there, nothing recognizable, nothing exists. When you wake up, the universe comes after you open your eyes. So first you appear, then the universe appears. First this mind appears, then the universe appears. In the dream state, where there is no object of this mind, by its own power creates everything, and so also it has created all we see in Jagrat, waking state. There is no difference between Jagrat, Swapna, or the waking state, and dream state. No difference. Everything we see is the creation of the mind. So we can go even beyond this, because if the mind is creating Jagrat, so the physical body is inside the mind and not otherwise, not the mind which is inside of a body. And actually, yes, there is no difference between Jagrat and Swapna, because the mind creates physicalities at all levels. What levels? Because look, physicality is recognized by physicality. The object is recognized which is of the same nature of that which is perceiving the object. So if I touch something, if this body touch something solid, that solidity is of the nature of this. So it recognizes this is physicality. But when you're having a dream, you have the same sense of physicality also. You recognize because the objects perceived are from the nature of the instrument which is perceiving them. So there's actually no difference. And this is not a real body, and the body of the dream is a dream body. These are all dream bodies. The different characteristics of the perception of the experience, but they are the same, exactly the same. So everything is seen is the creation of the mind. As in a dream, there is a physical body, there is manifestation, there is a world. But first you appeared in the dream, then the rest became visible. So that body and the environment, the universe, was created by the mind. As this physical body, it is always physical wherever you are. So at all moments, it is the perception of mind-created universe, where that body is also a part of that created universe, created by the mind. In the time of susupti, dreamless state, when the mind is absorbed in Maya, in the seed, when there is no mind, more or less, there is nothing, there is all. Therefore, everything is created by the mind. So in that susupti state, there is existence, pure existence, that is undeniable. There is bliss, and there's nothing else. because the mind is in its seed form, not visible, non-existence. Everything appears back again when this mind reappears. As the wind creates the clouds and again destroys them, so this bondage is the creation of the mind. And it is the mind also that destroys that bondage. So that which you believe to be real, you can by discrimination see that it's not real and break with this bondage. By creating attachment to the body and objects of senses, the mind binds purusa by the quality, which is the guna, just as any animal is bound by a rope. And by creating non-attachment, it releases the purusa. He who thinks the objects of senses are all poison becomes free. By taking them as nectar, he is bound. Yes. And if in your mind the worry comes, but how can we still do things and not get, that means you're trying to preserve illusion, not breaking free from it. But let's come back again. By creating attachment, I will read again, to the body and objects of senses, the mind binds the purusa. So the objects of senses, they act like a rope. And by creating non-attachment, uninterest, not interest in these objects of senses, ropes dimmer. And it releases the purusa. So he who thinks the objects of senses are all poison gets away from them, separates itself, doesn't touch them, doesn't even come near them. He becomes free because the tide of illusion starts to weaken, and eventually breaks free from them. But as taking them as nectar, as something very important, worthwhile experiencing, then he continues bound. Therefore, the mind is the cause both of bondage and the release of individuals. Impure rajas is the cause of bondage, because that is what impels you towards sense objects for the craving of them and to invest in their direction for the many infinite enjoyments of sense pleasures. And pure sattva, free from rajas and tamas, is the cause of release, because now you are not dragged by this. The clouds are not there. It's not a dark place. You can see the sun and you can contemplate the sun and rise towards the sun and dissolve into the sun, into Atman, which is same as Brahman. By the increase of viveka, discrimination, and vairagya, renunciation, the mind becomes purified and is ready for liberation. Therefore, one who is intelligent, desires of liberation, should have these two qualities, discrimination and renunciation, well established in him. So this is the central point of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. Discrimination to identify that which is non-self, and vairagya, renunciation of that which is non-self. It is not detachment, neither non-attachment, it is renunciation. So, attachment, I'm holding on to something, desperately holding on. Non-attachment, the thing is there. I'm not attaching myself to it. Renunciation, I'm throwing it away as far as possible. So, discrimination to know what is Atman and what is non-Atman, and renunciation to throw that non-Atman away from me. And that is the way to purify the mind. And that is the way to purify the mind. So when you're working at the level of the personality, doing what's good and what's bad, you're just untying those gigantic knots for this to even become possible. But it is here at this level, after all of that has been done, there's no going around it, that then the mind becomes really purified and ready for liberation. Therefore, one who is intelligent and his intelligence works in his favor, because you can be intelligent and still use it to maintain your illusion, your slavery to illusion. So that's not, and doing that in an intelligent way, but that's not really intelligence, is it? Because real intelligence works in your favor, not against you. So the one who is intelligent and desirous for liberation, the one who desires liberation, should have these two qualities. Because just recognizing, oh, this is non-self, but still engaging, investing, enjoying, that's not vairagya. So that's not really discrimination. Discrimination has a purpose, a practical purpose, and that is to know what you have to renunciate. That could be depressing if you were just losing your sources of happiness, but it's not. You're just renouncing your sources of suffering, that which maintains the duality, the dual experience, and that which keeps you apart from your real nature. So nothing depressing there. It's the other way around. A great tiger, whose name is the mind, wanders in this world. The objects of the senses are the forest where this tiger wanders. Where this great tiger wanders, yes. Therefore, one who is desirous of liberation should not go there. So the tiger wanders through the forest, which is the objects of senses. So in this forest, the tiger wanders there because he finds his comfort, he finds his food, he finds his purpose of existence, which is following these impulses, instinct, all of this. So the forest is the sense objects. And if the tiger doesn't go there, tiger dies. Tiger dies. Not a kitten, a tiger. So the one who is desirous of liberation should not go into that forest. He should renunciate the forest. Renunciate objects of senses. The mind produces, for the enjoyer, different kinds of objects of senses, either gross or subtle: body, color, caste, social strata, ashrama, stage of life, the student, householder, retirement forest, and sannyasin, as also the qualities, actions, and their results. These are all creations of the mind, dreamlike creations, not real. Consciousness is never touched by anything. Yet, with this body, senses, pranas, qualities, and all these things, the mind deludes the consciousness and creates for him the enjoyer. The knowledge that I am, the knowledge of me and mine, and deludes him again and again, as he, the jiva, the supposed incarnated soul, enjoys or suffers in the mouth of that great crocodile. but consciousness is never touched. Identification with the unreal is the cause of this world for the Purusa. The mind is the creator of this identification, of the soul with the unreal body. He who is without discrimination and full of rajas and tamas, in his mind creates bondage. And he who is in the sattva quality, his mind cannot create bondage. It's different. It doesn't create freedom, because freedom is what it is. It's the real, not the real nature. It's the real, it's the reality. So what can be created is only bondage by incorrect knowledge. So this is what can be created, because it has to be sustained, maintained. Illusion has to be maintained, created, because it doesn't have and it has to be sustained because it doesn't have a reality of its own. So when the mind is full of sattva, when it reflects the pure brightness of the Atman, it cannot create more illusion, more bondage. Therefore, the sages who know the reality of things call this mind the cause of all ignorance, by which the whole universe is driven and created, as the wind drives the clouds. Therefore, the duty of one who desires liberation should be to purify the mind, and then freedom appears to him like an apple in his hand. And remember, purifying the mind by discrimination and renunciation, viveka and vairagya. So the duty, like I spoken previously about the duties, to follow one's own duty, and the highest duty being of liberation. So to follow the duty of liberation means to purify the mind, and purifying the mind means using discrimination and vairagya, identifying that which is the non-self and renunciated all. Yes. How to purify the mind, asks the seeker. I tell you this: have desire for liberation alone, no other desires, just liberation, not for anything else. Be resolute for liberation. Root out the attachment for objects of senses. Give up all works in that direction. Be steadfast in faith and intent in hearing, contemplating, and meditating upon the great words of the scriptures. He alone who does this gets rid of the rajas and tamas qualities of intellect and gains sattva quality. So let's go one by one. So this is what it means when I repeat that sentence that says, the attitude of a seeker should be, I don't want anything else from this world or any world beyond. I just want liberation. So having desire for liberation alone, not for anything else. All other desires, cut them, uproot them, don't feed them. Just keep the desire for liberation. Be resolute for liberation, not just having the desire, but act upon it incisively, intensely, in a resolute way. Root out the attachment for objects of senses. So, now I'm reminding about another scripture, but let's forget about that. You your plants, your garden, and there's weeds in the middle coming. But then you look at this little weed and poor one, so I'll just cut the leaves so that it doesn't disturb the others. And I will leave the roots because it's so small, it's harmless. No, those roots will continue to bring more leaves and will grow and expand and take the nutrients out of the good plants. So they need to be uprooted so they can die. So root out the attachment for sense objects and give up all works in that direction. So all investments, which are works, actions, which are directed for sense pleasures, for cravings or sense objects for sense pleasures, give up of all those investments. Because if you don't, you're just affirming their reality and maintaining the bondage. And your reality will be that what you are still seeing. And not only this, because this will give you quality time to be used wisely. And it should be used by, and be steadfast in faith and intent, in hearing, contemplating, and meditating upon the great words of the scriptures. And by the abstraction of sense pleasures, sense objects, your mind gets purified, becomes more subtle, so it can, and by listening for the teachings of the scriptures or the master, by listening, it can contemplate on them. That means staying with them, trying to understand, to figure it out, what it means. And this is sharpening the sword of discrimination, and then meditating, staying with it steadfastly. He alone who does this, and no one else, gets rid of the rajas and tamas qualities in the intellect and gains sattva quality. The third sheet, Manomaya course, is not the Atman. It cannot be, because it has a beginning and the end, and an end. While the Atman has neither a beginning nor an end. The mind undergoes change, and the Atman is changeless, so it cannot be the Atman. The mind has pain, the Atman has blissfulness itself. The mind has causes to be happy and miserable, the objects of senses. But the Atman has no cause for its blissfulness. It is its nature. The mind is not the seer. You can see the mind. You can see the thoughts. And what is seen cannot be the seer. The Atman is the seer, so the Atman is prior to the mind. The knowledge sheet. Then the fourth sheet is the buddhi, and the organs of feeling were their actions. And the idea of I am the doer and the seer. This is the sheet of intellect, Vijnanamaya course, and it is its cause, and it is the cause of the world for the Purusha, the one who believes himself to be embodied. This intellect is the reflection of consciousness, because it is there at close to the Atman. I'm missing the word. So this intellect is the reflection of consciousness, but it is the transformation of prakriti, nature, still. So it cannot be the Atman. Did I jump something? No. It works as I, and it feels as I do see and hear. These are all the works of the intellect. It feels in the body and in the senses. Now he asks, how long has the sheet of intellected existed? Beginningless, from time immemorial, it has been doing all the works in the world. Following the desires in the past, it engages itself in works, good or bad, and enjoys their results. But it is beginningless, because it actually never existed. Like the mirage of water in a desert. When did it start? Well, it started when I started to see it. But if it doesn't exist, did it really start? No. And if it did really start, if it doesn't exist, how will it end? But I will stop seeing it. So for me, it's an end. But still, it was there. But it doesn't exist. So how can it end? How can it begin? Understand? From time immemorial, unknown time, it has been doing all the works in the world and creating the works in the world. Following the desires in the past, it's just a concept of the mind, a way of separating experiences, but it's not really the case. It engages itself in works, good or bad, and enjoys their results, good or bad according to its own belief. It takes different kinds of bodies in different planets and creates all bodies and planets also. And the three states which you see, Jagrat, Swapna, and Susupti, all belong to this sheet of intellect, and also pleasure and pain. So this is the root of all. The root of all. The reflection of the Atman is there more than anywhere else, because it is very near to the Atman. And it is the Upadi, the layer, the sheet, the adjunct of the Atman. In this sheet, the Atman manifests itself as the doer, though it is the anvil that gives shape to all, but takes no shape, being all the time the same. So it is an apparent contact. It doesn't really, it happens, but it doesn't happen. And the Atman always stays the same, despite all appearances in modifications. The mind or buddhi creates everything, but remaining in the upadis, in the layers, in the sheets, the Atman appears as the doer and the enjoyer. Okay.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.